All right, we are going to take a look here at MATHguide.com how to use the point slope formula. Here you're going to take a look at this formula. It's right up here, and it looks like for our formula we have a couple things of interest to look at. Notice here we have a subscript of 1 and a subscript of 1 over here also. Those are not powers, they're not exponents, they're numbers to represent that this x value is different from the x value without the subscript. So it's a special mark to show us that these two x values or x variables are different. Alright, also notice that here we have m. M is routinely the variable used to describe slope. Okay, so that m you'll usually see in all math textbooks defined as slope. Alright, so let's get to use this. Now it turns out that when we do a problem with the point slope formula, we're given some information. Alright, so let's say we are given a few pieces of information. Let's say that we have a slope. So let's say that our slope of a line is equal to 2/3. Let's also say that we have a point, and let's say we're given a point on a line, and let's say the point on the line is 6/5. Okay, what we're going to do is use these two pieces of information, the point and the slope, to come up with an equation of a line that contains those two pieces of information. So in other words, we want to know what is the equation of a line that has a slope of 2/3 but also passes through the location or the point 6/5. So the point slope formula does just that. It'll tell us what equation has those characteristics. Alright, so if we're going to use the point slope formula, we're going to substitute some values in. Alright, so we remember that this is our point slope formula. So what we're going to do is put in our slope of 2/3. We're going to put in the point 6/5. Now this x value is 6. Here this 5 is the y value, and for the purposes of our problem this is x1, this is y1. So in other words, I know I'm putting 6 in for x1, and I know I'm putting in 5 for y1. So everything else with this problem stays exactly the way it is. Nothing else changes. Everything is exactly the same. I just substituted in 3 values. Alright, so now what do? Well, it turns out that you'll recognize that we have some parentheses here. So for dealing with parentheses, we do the distributive property. If you remember, that's when we multiply, right? If there's a value in front of the parentheses, we multiply that value throughout the parentheses. Alright, so I'll do just that. I'm going to multiply. So I'm going to take 2/3 times x. I'm going to take 2/3 times 6. Now remember, 6 is really 6/1. And I could use a calculator to multiply these values, but I'd rather do it by hand. I'd rather actually multiply because these numbers seem like they're very convenient to do it this way. Now when we multiply, we first look to see if we could cancel. If there's any numerator or denominator that can be canceled or divided by some equal value, we're going to do that. Like for instance, I'll notice that this 3 and this 6, I could divide both of those values by 3. I could divide that by 3 and get 1. I could divide this by 3 and get 2. Alright, so it looks like that's all I could do to reduce that. So once I'm done reducing, I multiply across. So numerator times numerator, that would be 4. And denominator times denominator, 1 times 1 would be 1. So it looks like I've got myself an equation of a line starting to clean up nicely. I'm going to write that as just -4. Now, you know, I would say that convention tells us that we have to get the y alone. Anytime we are given a line, it's always convenient to have the y alone, so we could have it in y equals mx plus b form. So if I want to solve for y, I have to get rid of this 5. Or I should say, we're subtracting by 5, so what's the opposite? We add 5 to both sides of this equation. So now let's see what's left. So the negative 5 and the 5 cancel, and I get 2/3 x. Negative 4 and 5, and that's going to be a positive 1. And there you go. So I now have this equation in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. So I know what the slope of the line is, 1. I know what the slope of the line is 2/3, and I know that the y-intercept is 1. So I know everything there is about this line, and I use the point slope formula to get it. All right, thanks. That was MATHguide.com, and glad you enjoyed it.